We are given the function f of x equals 14x, and it is also a one-to-one function. By one-to-one, it means the function f of x has inverse. And so let's determine the inverse of the function, which is mathematically written as f inverse of x. So for that, first let me copy the f of x, which is 14x. And the first step in finding the inverse of this function is we replace f of x by y. So we have the equation y equals 14x. And in the next step, we interchange x and y. So therefore, y becomes x, and this 14 times of this x becomes y. Now, in the next step of finding the inverse, we have to solve for y. That is, we have to solve for y from this equation. So I divide both sides by 14 so that I can solve for y. And so we get x by 14 equals for y. And in the next step of this finding the inverse, we replace this y by f inverse of x. So therefore, we can write down this f inverse of x, and this equals x over 14. So this is the inverse function, which is written as f inverse of x equals x by 14. Now let's see how to verify that this f inverse of x is the correct f inverse of x. And for that, we have to verify this property of function and inverse function, that is f of f inverse of x, and this should exactly equals x. So when this equation becomes true, then the f inverse of x we found is correct. So for that, first let me copy the f of x function. F of x is 14x, and so here I'm going to find f of replace f inverse of x with the one that we have found, that is x over 14, and this should equal x. We are going to determine this, so I put a question mark. And now we have to find f of x over 14. That is, in f of x, we have to replace x by 14. So therefore, this becomes f of x is 14x, and 14 times of replace this x by this inside part, that is x by 14. And we have to see that if this equals x. So we can now cancel these two 14s, and on the left side we have x, and this equals x, and so this equation is true. That is x equal to x, and since we found that this equation is true, we see that f of f inverse equal to x, and therefore the f inverse of x that we have found, which is x over 14, is correct, and thus we have verified this.